Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about taxes. Your objective for the day. You'll be able to summarize why taxes are important and how one should pay taxes. Now, what are taxes? Taxes are when the government charges you money for certain things, and that goes towards the government budget. We're going to be focusing on income tax primarily for this video, though there are other types of taxes, such as sales tax or a carbon tax. But whenever I say taxes in this video, assume I'm talking about income tax. And income tax is whenever you make money in this country, the government takes a percentage of that money in order to add to their budget for the year. Now, what's included in that budget? Things such as public goods and services, Medicare, Medicaid, public schools, the roads, the military, Social Security, WIC, the salary of our public officials such as the post office or politicians, etc., etc. Taxes are pretty important. Now, taxes in the United States are also mandatory. And income tax is not exclusively what you make at work. It's just how you make money in general. So it could include things such as alimony payments, child support, government benefits, interest, lottery winnings, etc., etc. The average person pays 10% of their income, but that is not always true because the United States has a progressive income tax, which means that you make more, you pay a higher percentage of your income to the government. Now, this could be a little bit complicated. So let's follow along in the next example on the next slide. So I said that you make more, you pay a higher percentage of your income to the government. That percentage is determined by what tax bracket you are in. You're put in a tax bracket based on how much money you make. And each tax bracket has a certain percentage of your income that they take. And I want to say right off the bat, all these numbers here are completely made up. They are not your real tax brackets. They're not the real percentage that you'll be charged for your income. I just made it these numbers because they're easier to work with and they're easier to understand. So now with that being said, let's go to the example. If the income tax is 10% for $0 to $100,000, you pay 10% for every dollar in that tax bracket that you make. So let's say you make $1, that means you will be charged 10 cents in taxes for the year. If you make $10, you'll be charged $1 for the year. If you make $1,000, you'll be charged $100 for the year, with a maximum of $10,000. If the income tax, let's say you're in a different tax bracket. If the income tax in that tax bracket is 50% for, let's say, $100,000 to $200,000, you have to pay 50% for every dollar in this tax bracket. In total, that means that if you make $200,000 in a year, you do not pay $100,000 in taxes. You actually pay $60,000 in taxes instead. Now you might ask, how did this work? Well, remember, is that if you make $100,000, you pay a maximum of $10,000 in taxes for that tax bracket. So you'll never be charged more in that tax bracket, and that only applies to the first $100,000. For every dollar past $100,000, you pay 50% for every dollar past that. So if you make $100,000 and one, you will pay $10,000.50 in taxes, because for any income past $100,000, you pay 50% of that income. So how do we get to 200,000 here? Well, if you make $100,000, you pay $10,000 in taxes. If you make $1 million, for that first $100,000, you're only going to pay $10,000 no matter what. So in this case, you make $200,000 and you have 50% of that income taken away, which means that for this percentage here, you pay 50% of it. And 50% of $100,000 to $200,000 is $50,000. So you add that $50,000 to $10,000, and you get $60,000 in taxes. Because again, the progressive income tax, this doesn't mean that if you make up past $100,000, you instantly pay $50,000 in taxes. You just pay 50% for every dollar past $100,000. If that's a little confusing, then please stop by my office hours and I will answer any questions. Now, let's say you think that's complete garbage, and you don't want to file your taxes. Well, if you fail to file your taxes in time, the IRS can penalize you with late fees. They could charge you interest. They could do a whole ton of damages to you. Now, I'll let you read this on your own time. You don't need me to do it for you. So there are 5 ways that they could punish you. First is fines and interest. You pay a fine for not paying on time, and you also pay interest, which means that you're going to end up owing more for not filing your taxes in a timely manner. Now, we're going to say what happens if you don't have enough money to pay your taxes in time, but we'll get to that at a later date. You might just have delayed reimbursements as a consequence of not filing your taxes in time, which means you don't get your money as quickly as possible. And when it comes to finance, generally speaking, when you loan people money or when you let people borrow it, we want you to lend it to them with interest. That way you'll make money. And so if you don't file your taxes in time, you're essentially letting the government play with that money without charging them interest, which is something you don't want to do. Third, you have 3 years after the tax deadline, which is April 15th, to file your taxes. If you don't meet that deadline, then your tax return is gone. Simple as that. Fourth, sometimes the IRS will actually fill it out for you, but in this case, you will receive penalties, and you won't receive all the little tax breaks that you would normally receive if you did the taxes on your own. And so, if they do this, you still have a right to file your own taxes and make those corrections, so do keep that in mind. But sometimes they will fill it out on their own, and you will not get as much money, or you might owe more money as a result. But you do have a right to fill it out yourself later. Fifth, if you owe past $25,000 in taxes, there's a high likelihood that you will get arrested, or they will garnish your wages or take your property. Now, when they garnish your wages, that basically means that they're going to take money directly from your paycheck until they pay off your tax debt. Now, what about if you can't pay your taxes by April 15th, which is the deadline? That deadline's been extended this year due to the prominence of COVID. So first and foremost is maybe you owe too much money and can't afford to pay it. First, you should talk to a tax professional who may be able to get you tax breaks you missed. So maybe you just did a bad job when filing your taxes. So a tax professional might actually help you realize that you made a mistake here, or there are certain deductions that you didn't realize before. Second, file anyways and pay as much as you can. So you pay as much as you can, because penalties are way harsher if you don't file and you don't pay in time. Third is you just pay as much as you can before they contact you. They usually give you about a month before they actually contact you, so pay as much as you can. And fourth, just prepare in the future. Talk to a tax professional in the future. There are free services available if you cannot afford one, so do keep that in mind. And how do you pay your taxes? Well, sorry about that. My voice is a bit raspy. Whenever you file your taxes and if you find out you owe money, you should enclose a check in that tax return to the United States saying that you are paying them. Now, you could also pay with a credit card or debit card, but that is for another day. So here are some questions you might have. What about if I live abroad? Do you have to file taxes? If you live in a different country, you still have to file taxes if you are a citizen of the United States. Now, if you do live abroad, you are allowed to exclude money you earned in a different country. And you could also use their tax codes to help you get tax breaks in America. So do keep that in mind, that if you do live in a different country, as long as you're a citizen, you still have to pay those taxes. And if you make over $10,000 in general, you have to file taxes. If you do not, then you don't need to file taxes. But remember, your employer does take wages from your paycheck in order to pay your federal income tax. We'll talk about that more later. So you might want to fill them out anyways, because you might get a small return. So what about if you live abroad and make less than $10,000? If your total income, as in all your accounts combined, is over $10,000, American and foreign, you still have to pay taxes. Now, let's say you are in a different country and you haven't filed your taxes for years. Well, typically the IRS will be more lenient with you, so you should file them anyways because the penalties would be harsher if you don't. Now, let's say you're an undocumented immigrant. Do you have to pay taxes? You should. Instead of using Social Security to fill out your tax form, you will receive an individual tax identification number. If you are a tax resident, you had to pay taxes. So if you have a green card, you do have to pay taxes. Now, one thing I want to be clear, though, is that these people do not receive the benefits of Social Security or many public goods, but they still have to pay for them. Now, if you're an undocumented immigrant, this actually could be used as an example of how you are a law-abiding citizen if you do want to get citizenship later, saying that, hey, I've been paying my taxes on time, I'm a productive citizen. That would definitely help you in your tax case. Now, how do you file your taxes? First and foremost, you can do it manually. You can go to the IRS website, get this specific form, and then mail it to the IRS with any payments you own. The second one here is the most common one people do. They use a tax software program, so they might use TurboTax or H&R Blocks, and they'll walk you through a series of questions about your income or deductions. They'll fill out your form and file it for you electronically. This here doesn't take too much time to do. It's also similar enough for most people to do, and it helps you with tax deductions very quickly. You can do this online. They may be free to an extent. It depends on the program and what you want to file exactly. And some of these softwares do offer talking to tax professionals on the line. And third, you can also just get professional help from an accountant or tax preparer who will work with you to maximize your refund and fill out your tax return on your behalf. So an advantage of this is that they might see tax breaks or loopholes that these softwares, TurboTax or H&R Block, might not be able to see. So if you can afford one, or if you get a chance to see an accountant, they may be able to help you greatly. The first option is free. The second option, like I said, can be free, though there are fees depending on what you get. And the third one, unless you find a free accountant, which there are, you will have to pay for that. Now, employers, how do they help with them? Well, if you remember earlier, I said that if you make under $10,000, you should still file your taxes anyways because, where is it? There you go. If you make below $10,000, you might want to file your taxes anyways because your employer has been taking wages from your paycheck in order to pay the government taxes. So whenever you start a job, ideally, they'll give you a W-4, which is basically asking you how much as a percentage of your income do you want to give to the government to pay your taxes ahead of time. So you fill that out. And then let's say tax season comes around, you will receive what's called a W-2. This reports on how much money you've earned, how much you've earned in tips, the salary, deductions, etc., etc. And these for our employees. If you're an independent contractor or if you are self-employed, you will need to fill out a different form. But when you fill out a W-2 or get a W-2, generally speaking, that is a good time to begin your taxes. You should generally wait till you get all your forms too before you do your taxes. So self-employed people use a 1099. If you are self-employed too, make sure you keep receipts. That way you can write off deductions, because you are allowed to write off deductions for work expenses. So this might include things such as office supplies that you pay for on your own, because you need that in order to complete your job. So make sure you keep your receipts so that way you know how much, and in case you get audited, you have proof. Here are some free tax services. So this is something that more people should know about, but 311, that's a non-emergency phone number that a lot of cities have. It can give you information on services they have in that city. You can make small complaints. You can report small things. There's road damage or graffiti. And here, are some examples of where you could get free tax services. So one, if you click on this link, is the IRS's tax website themselves. And again, this is free. So let's say 60622 find. So right here, it tells you the location of a place where they prepare taxes. It tells you for what dates they do. This may be extended due to COVID. An appointment is required, and they help both English and Spanish-speaking individuals. Another one is Tax Prep Chicago. So if you go here, and we'll let it load, free tax help available to Chicago residents. And again, it tells you that, well, these services have been delayed due to COVID. So you can enter an address here. Let's say 5 miles. And this will tell you about tax services available, 6622. Search. And it gives you the several locations here where you can use them for tax services, and it tells you the appointments or when they're closed. See, so North Lawndale, Benito Juarez, right here, Logan Square, Wick Food Center. And one thing I want to point out is that it says you could also call 311 because that is a number designed to help you with these type of things. If you're in the military too, specifically, there is a military program that's meant to help people there. So it's a great resource. I'm not going to go through this website quite yet, but again, this is for if you are in the military. And I always recommend going to NerdWallet because they do oftentimes have great articles about how you can about how you can do your taxes or finance. So it says here, best for simple returns, best for beginning to itemize, best for complex returns, good budget picks. And here it tells you about first what you can get for free, the forms that are supported, how much it's going to cost you for certain things. It goes more in depth with certain things here, and then it goes right here to the small little nitty gritty of what you'll need, and it gives you some advice about how to file taxes. So do keep that in mind. And it says here the IRS has a free file program. So right here, so as you could see, there's a lot of great resources that you can use, so make sure you take advantage of them. And then once you have finished your taxes, if you owe money to the IRS, you send money to the appropriate government agencies, whether that's your State Department or the IRS themselves, along with your tax return. So you send them the form that says how much you have to pay, and you pay them. If there's more than you could pay all at once, you are able to set up a payment plan with them. If you're owed a refund, you have a few options for receiving your payment. You can get it in the form of a check or direct deposit to your bank. And you should always save a copy of your tax returns for the future, just in case you get audited. So that'll be it for today. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Make good choices, and have a nice day.